Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another Adventures in the Forgotten Realm draft. Now, we've got Imarith, Desert Doom, which is a flying 5-mana 5/5 that has Ward as long as it's untapped, and draws a card whenever it deals damage, but if you have fewer than 3 cards in hand, you draw up to that many cards. That's really good. It's an incredible card, so we will definitely be taking that. Eye of Vecna is also a really good rare. Just draws you additional cards. So I think I will be taking Eye of Vecna. Alright, on to pack 3. Let's see, I could take Air Cult Elemental, that would not be bad. I could take Bar the Gate or Evolving Wilds. I think the Elemental is best. Generally I pair blue with black, but you can do blue-red, blue-white. I mean, they're all archetypes, right? But I think Air Cult Elemental is the best of those cards, at least for us. And I will take a redundant one here. I don't mind having 2. More than 2, and it starts to get a little bit wonky, but I think I'm going to go with a Secret Door here. I mean, I guess I could take Ray of Enfeeblement. It could be an okay removal spell. Yeah, I'll take Ray of Enfeeblement. I don't know if I'm actually going to be playing black yet, but it seems reasonable. I will be taking Shortcut Seeker. Okay, let's see, there is a Dungeon Crawler, a Feign Death, and a Secret Door. We could also start going blue-white by taking Gloomstalker. I'm not sure that's what I want to do. I mean, Dungeon Crawler is technically a dungeon payoff. I could also take Feign Death. I think I'm actually going to take Secret Door. I really want 1 in the deck. Alright, another Shortcut Seeker. There is also a Delver's Torch and a Thieves' Tools and a Bag of Holding. I think Bag of Holding was a rare the first time it came out, so I'm interested to see that it's an uncommon. Yeah, I'm going to take another Shortcut Seeker. Let's see, I think this is one of our initial packs. We can take the Frost Giant. It's not bad. It's kind of a huge creature with some protection on it. I don't know how many dies we're going to be rolling. We also have no 3-drops yet. But I think I'm going to go with the Frost Giant. It's just big and scary looking. I don't think I want more than 1, though. I will take You Come to a River. The Disperse, I think, is better than 6-mana kill a creature. I will take Bar the Gate because it's on color. Single counter spells have been kind of good in this format, but they're a lot harder to make decisions with, I've noticed, at least for me. Take a Devour Intellect. Another Secret Door came around. Don't know that I'm playing both. And a Flumph Island in the sideboard. Alright, pack 2. There's a Volo Guide to Monsters. There's a Cridle of Baldur's Gate. There's also a Charmed Sleep. I really would not mind the Charmed Sleep. I think that card is excellent removal in blue. But Cridle is also quite strong and an uncommon, so we're likely to see less of him. And I think I would rather keep one. Because making things like Shortcut Seeker unblockable are very strong in this format. I think I want to take Grim Bounty here. Even though Black Dragon is also removal, it's getting really, really expensive, and we have basically no way to generate treasures. Grim Bounty is just unconditional removal at sorcery speed that also fixes mana for a turn, which is really strong, so we'll be taking that. Charmed Sleep, I'm happy to take. I wouldn't mind a Hired Hexblade, but really only if we get more treasures. Grim Wanderer, I have a feeling Grim Wanderer is going to be difficult for us to cast. I can either take a Vampire Spawn or a second Charmed Sleep. I have 10 creatures, most of them are at the top end. I think I'm going to take the Spawn. The Spawn gaining you life can actually be a pretty big swing versus the aggressive decks in this format, and it has a decent-sized body for blocking purposes. Lair of the Hydra, Trickster's Talisman. I could take Delver's Torch just to, like, maybe keep white open for me as a secondary color. So we don't have all that many black cards, we're not really seeing that many. I guess maybe I should just take the Hexblade. Yeah, we'll do that. Another Shortcut Seeker, a third Shortcut Seeker, or a Thieves' Tools. Honestly, with as good as Shortcut Seeker is, I think I do need a Thieves' Tools, which will make this deck a lot better. The fact it makes a treasure and can, like, get me to Imarith on turn 4 would be pretty good. Oswald Fiddlebender. Yeah, the birthing pod for artifacts. So we either take another Vampire Spawn or a Zombie Ogre. Also, Zombie Ogre, I think, is stronger, but I think Vampire Spawn might actually be better in this deck. Because I feel like aggro is where we're going to struggle the most. And that's the best card we could have against it out of that pack. I'll take another Hired Hexblade. Wouldn't mind more treasures. Like, if we could get a Horde Robber, that'd be great. Feign Death, not a bad combat trick. I will take a Feign Death. I'm not playing any of these cards. I guess white would be the next color, so I'll put a white card in the sideboard. Probably not playing Baleful Beholder, but we can take it. Find the Path, sure. I guess 50 feet of rope could be reasonable. I'll take another Bar of the Gate. And we get Forced to Mountain. Pack 3, we got a Minion of the Mighty, ton of red cards, another Grim Bounty, which I'm pretty thrilled about. I don't think I've had a deck with 2 of these yet, so I will take another Grim Bounty. Hama Pashar for multiple Dungeoneering triggers. Otherwise, there's a Soul Knife Spy or a Horde Robber. Well, I think Hama Pashar probably is the highest power level card we could put in this deck and splash it. I think we are better off taking a Horde Robber. Yeah, let's do it. It's fun. We'll take Pashar. We do have some treasures, and we might be able to just fix off of them. I guess I would take a second Disperse here. We roll almost no dice, so Feywild Trickster is not that great for us. Another Vampire Spawn's probably what I should take here, over a second Thieves' Tools. So I'm going to do that. Demogorgon's Clutches is pretty good. Still probably better than a Thieves' Tools. Let's see, a third Shortcut Seeker, a Deadly Dispute, or Barrowin of Clan Under. Barrowin's another card that's probably worth splashing. Deadly Dispute, I think, is the most sensical. I could always sack the Secret Door if I wanted to not sack a treasure. Yeah, I'm gonna take Deadly Dispute, actually. I like having one. So I can take a Zombie Ogre now, or I can take a Lightfoot Rogue. I think the Rogue is kind of underwhelming in the blue-black deck. I mean, it can be good with Thieves' Tools, but if you crit, then it actually becomes blockable, which is kind of interesting. I'm going to take the Ogre. Clattering Skeletons does kind of help fill the curve out a little bit. Okay, now I think it is time for a second Thieves' Tools. Another Zombie Ogre. Take a Devour Intellect. Card we're not playing. Card we're not playing. I mean, I could actually play Shocking Grasp, but I don't think I'll need to. Alright, let's build a deck, shall we? We have a good number of creatures. If I'm playing any Bar of the Gate, I'm probably only playing one. Probably only playing one Disperse. Ray of Enfeeblement, pinging off X1s. And occasionally hitting a good white creature, I think is worth. Yeah, I can see that making sense. Probably only playing one Secret Door. I'm probably not playing the Rime Shield Frost Giant. I think we just have better stuff, and it makes the curve a little bit better. Man, Bar of the Gate is... When it's good, it's huge. When it's bad, it's just awful. Let's see, how many ways to make treasures do we have? We have... I mean, I guess the Venture route. 2 Grim Bounty and 2 Thieves' Tools. I guess that makes Hexblade a little bit worse. I don't want to cut too many more creatures, though. So I think I'm going to stick with on-board removal between Grim Bounty and Charmed Sleep. And I think Demogorgon's Clutches is on average better. And I think I'm going to get rid of Deadly Dispute. Because while I could sack, like, I guess Eye of Vecna or Thieves' Tools or Secret Door, I don't really see myself doing that. I probably need to cut one Zombie Ogre or an Air Cult Elemental. Let's cut a Zombie Ogre. Well, we do a lot of venturing, and we do have Hama Pashar. I'm going to cut an Air Cult Elemental. I might actually be wrong, but I'm going to have 1 Plains in the deck. 5 islands. We have a lot of double blue. We have a lot of double black as well. I'm going to add 2 more islands. So we'll run 16 land and 41 cards because I'm really indecisive. And I'll see you guys in round 1. Alright, we will be on the play for round 1. I actually think this hand is not that bad, so I'm going to keep. We do need to draw some action. Whoa. I accidentally made my coffee way stronger than normal. Like, it's fine. I'm just glad it's cool enough to drink finally. Alright, so lead on Secret Door. Pass the turn. Opponent leads on a Plains. We draw Eye of Vecna. Well, we know what we're playing this turn, because we need to draw lands. There's a land. Perfect. Opponent plays a Monk of the Open Hand. I'm not going to pay for Eye of Vecna this turn. Play Thieves' Tools. Pass the turn. Depending on what my opponent plays, next turn I may pay for Eye of Vecna. I will not, because I need to cast Grim Bounty. So opponent ventures into the Lost Mine of Phandelver. We untap. We do not pay for Eye of Vecna. Draw an island. Play an island. Grim Bounty. Slay the Paladin. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Ranger's Hawk and a Delver's Torch. Okay. We untap. Draw off of Eye. We get a Demogorgon's Clutches and a Plains. My opponent does only have 3 cards in hand, so... And I think they missed a land drop, so Mind Rotting them here should get 2 non-land cards. We got rid of Ingenious Smith and You Hear Something on Watch, and then they milled 2 lands. Alright, pass the turn. They suit up the Ranger's Hawk. They attack for 2 in the air. Go venturing. Looks like they're making a treasure. So I think they're pretty desperate for mana. They hit us for 2, we go to 14. Untap. Draw another card. We get an Air Cult Elemental, and draw an island. So play the Elemental, bounce the Hawk, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Ranger's Hawk, then plays a Reaper's Talisman. Then they play a Swamp. They equip Ranger's Talisman, or Reaper's Talisman, I don't know why I said Ranger. So we lose 2 life, they gain 2 life. Do I want to trade the wall off for this? I actually think I do. Because if I can get a Feign Death on that Elemental, it's going to be quite good. So draw a card and lose 2 life, then draw Ray of Enfeeblement. That is also huge. Play another Thieves' Tools, and pass the turn. So if my opponent spends their mana equipping a Delver's Torch, I'm going to hit it with Ray of Enfeeblement in response. Okay, they did not. So they're going to drain us. So declare blocks, Feign Death, return this to the battlefield, unsummon the Monk, which will permanently shrink it, and then unequip their equipment. They play the Monk. On 4 mana, they play a half-elf Monk. Okay. That is kind of dangerous, because it can tap after it attacks. So I'm actually going to Ray of Enfeeblement that. Untap. Even though I really need to draw cards, I'm not sure I can do this. Because if my opponent has removal, we might just die. I should have done it. Alright, pass the turn. We drew a bunch of extra cards, we just didn't draw enough removal. Maybe I was supposed to Ray of Enfeeblement prior to attacks, so I'd have more life. They equip the Monk, and then they attack. They get to venture and drain us. So they're shrinking our Elemental. They drain us for 2. So we're dead next turn, whether we block or don't block. So our only hope is to draw an extra card off Eye of Vecna and hope we hit, like, some really good draws. We hit a Grim Bounty, but that's not going to be enough. So... Alright, next game. Well, we only drew 2 creatures, and we were actually doing quite reasonably well, which is kind of interesting. Do I want to make adjustments? Not really. We'll just run it back. Alright, I would like to play first. We have a removal spell and a Mind Rot, and if we draw an island in 4 turns, we should be fine. And there's a lot of other playable cards we could draw, which is good. So lead on a Swamp, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Swamp and Reaper's Talisman. We draw a Hired Hexblade. No way to make treasures, so we might as well just play out the bear. Pass the turn. They play a Lightfoot Rogue. Play a Swamp. Go to combat. Attack for 2. Opponent does not block. They go to 18. Pass the turn. I don't think I'm casting Demogorgon's Clutches yet. If they play a land and cast a spell... it gets even better. If they miss a land drop, it's also really good. Okay, they did have a land. We untap and draw a Vampire Spawn. Go to combat. Attack for 2. And I'm going to play the Vampire Spawn. I've yelled at myself for this the last couple of limited drafts. And I don't think anybody's actually called me out on it, though. But I have a tendency, like I said, to do something powerful rather than build the board when I should be building the board. So, I'm going to try and change that. Okay, I'd like to draw an island so I can bounce that Paladin. Casting the Clutches here is not bad. Also playing a Skeletons is probably not bad, but... okay. Cast Demogorgon's Clutches, because we aren't doing anything else. This does mean I'm going to double block my opponent's creature, even if it has Death Touch and I lose both my guys. because I can't let them venture every single turn. The venture mechanic really helps to break board stalls, which seem to happen somewhat frequently in this format. So, like, if your opponent is nothing but lands in, like, a dungeon map, and you have nothing but lands, and you're both top-decking lands, and your opponent just starts venturing every turn, they're going to win. Because they're doing something when you're not. Pass the turn. We got an Eye of the Beholder and a Delver's Torch, which is good. They play a Dwarf Hold Champion. They equip Dwarf Hold Champion. And they do not attack with the Paladin. We untap, we draw another Vampire Spawn. Play it. Drain our opponent. Pass the turn. So if my opponent attacks with a creature that's wielding Reaper's Talisman, we're going to block with both Vampire Spawns, because unless they have a pump spell, they can't mark damage in such a way that it will kill both. So they attack us for 3, they drain us for 2, block and block. If they have a pump spell, we get absolutely blown out. Did I misunderstand how Death Touch works? Because I was pretty sure that you had to put all 3 damage on the first thing. I guess you only have to... No, you know what? I'm getting confused with Death Touch and Trample. That's not actually accurate. So that was a mistake. Especially because my opponent had Precipitous Drop. We need to draw a land so we can play this Clattering Skeletons immediately. That's better than nothing, but it's not great. Pass the turn. It's not great because I can't block Nadar. And if my opponent activates Hive of the Eye Tyrant, I can't block it either, because I'm pretty sure it has Menace. Yep. So we really need to draw an island, but we really need to draw any land, to be completely honest. So my opponent's probably going to put a 1/1 counter on Nadar. They could Dark Pool us, but okay. They're putting a 1/1 counter on Nadar. They're going to hit us for 4 and drain us for 2. No blocks. And they play a Ranger's Hawk. We untap and draw a Zombie Ogre. Pass the turn. Well, I mean, if you don't draw land, single land that you needed for 5 turns, you probably are going to lose. So I'm not going to be real upset if I lose this game. But it is annoying. Opponent animates Hive of the Eye Tyrant. Swings us for 8. Drains us for 2, so we're taking a total of 10. Yep. They exile Ray of Enfeeblement from our grave. Not that that really does anything. They get to draw an extra card because they complete their dungeon. I could chump. That stops me from going to 8, and it puts me at 12 instead. But then my opponent can start attacking with the Goblin. Oh gosh, it's even more than that because of the Anthem. Well. We untap and draw a Swamp. Play Clattering Skeletons. Pass the turn. I think we've lost simply because we weren't able to answer that Paladin, and we didn't draw any lands. So now my opponent can just drain us with the stupid Hawk. We need to draw blue mana or we lose. I think we're just dead regardless now. Yep, well, I mean, if you don't draw lands for 10 turns, you will lose. Alright, well, I'll see you guys in round 2. Hopefully we do a little better in round 2. Alright, we lost the die roll for round 2. We've got some good spells and an okay curve, so we're going to keep. Opponent leads on a forest, then passes. We untap, play a swamp, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Ranger's Longbow. We draw a Cridle of Baldur's Gate, which is a much better use of 2 mana than Hired Hexblade is on turn 2. Pass the turn. Opponent plays an island into a Sylvan Shepherd. We untap and draw a Zombie Ogre. They only have 3 cards in hand. I think let's play a Vampire Spawn. Apologies for the notifications. I'm still on call, so I have to, I still have to have, like, my phone on me, and it means other notifications are going to come through, because while I could mute them, I have to go through and do that for, like, individually for every single app. And if I do that for every single app, then I have to go and remember to undo it when I'm off on call, and it's just awful. That's actually a good question. Alright, for all of you guys that watch me, how do you guys manage your phone notifications? And if you just leave your notifications off, that's fine. I totally would do that. But my job prevents me from doing that about 2 weeks out of every 6 months. And it's a hassle to go back and forth. Alright, we draw a swamp. Opponent still has 3 cards in hand. So we can either Demogorgon's Clutches and hold up Feign Death. I think we should, because if my opponent... Well, actually... Let's not do that. Let's go ahead and attack with Cridle get a scry, and just pay for him to be unblockable. Because I'm expecting my opponent to play a land and a card, and that will put them exactly at 2. Or 2 cards. Vampire Spawn. I'm actually going to leave that on top. I don't think that's bad action to have here. Opponent plays a land, plays a Froghemoth. Trample Haste. When it deals combat damage to a player, exile up to that many target cards from their graveyard. Alright, so we're taking 4. And we will get to Mind Rot our opponent next turn, which should be strong, because they only have 2 cards left. My opponent should attack for 8 here, I think. Okay. They mid-roll. We take 8, go to 11. We have no cards in the graveyard with which to exile. So we draw a Vampire Spawn. Yeah, I really, really want to Mind Rot my opponent. I can't do any Feign Death trickery here, because if I do, they'll just exile it to Froghemoth. So we're going to play Hired Hexblade and probably do double blocking this turn. Pass the turn. Next turn we can play Zombie Ogre and we'll be a little bit safer. Opponent draws a Genie Windseer and plays it. Opponent attacks and attacks. So they get to roll and gain life. So we double block here. They should be only able to kill 1. And they choose to kill Vampire Spawn, which is reasonable. Problem is we currently don't have a way to deal with that flyer. I'd like to draw a Grim Bounty. That would make life easier. Take 4, go to 7. Untap. We draw a Vampire Spawn. Play Zombie Ogre. If we can draw a land, I'm actually going to chump attack here. Because I really wouldn't mind the scry. Okay, so we venture into the dungeon. Go to Phandelver. Get a scry. Plains to the top, because I want to play 2 Vampire Spawns next turn. This does mean I won't be able to double block and kill Sylvan Shepherd, but if they attack with both creatures, I'll just chump with the Ogre. And we'll take 3 in the air. I kind of expected them to move the Longbow over if they didn't have any plays, but it looks like my opponent kind of rushed to combat there. Alright, they did not attack with the Sylvan Shepherd. Okay, we untap. Draw Plains. Play a Plains. Play Vampire Spawn. Drain our opponent. Go to combat. Attack with Krydle. Make him unblockable. Leave up Feign Death. So we mill them for 1, drain them for 1, and we can scry Swamp to the bottom. Opponent untaps. Plays a land. I'm kind of hoping they do attack with the Shepherd, and we can just Feign Death the Vampire Spawn. Okay, opponent moves over the equipment. They go to combat. Attack us for 5. No blocks. Take 5 and go to 2. So we need to draw a Grim Bounty. Untap. We draw a Secret Door. So go to combat. Swing out. Krydle makes himself unblockable. Opponent flashes in Guardian of Faith. Alright. If they block Vampire Spawn, we can trade and Feign Death, which will be great, because that will actually keep us alive through them attacking with their 5/4 flyer. They phased out the Windseer. Interesting. I don't think that actually does anything, but... Okay. So we hit them for 4. I wish I had a way to draw this. And I don't. So put that on the bottom. Then I guess I just die in the air, right? Because even if I play Vampire Spawn, nothing died. I won't get to venture. Yeah. Okay. Scoop. I don't think we make any adjustments. I think we just run it back. Alright, we're on the play. We've got Krydle, Ray of Enfeeblement, and Grim Bounty. So, seems good. Okay. Lead on Swamp. Pass the turn. Never know when you might have to Ray of Enfeeblement something on turn 1. There's probably a non-zero chance of that happening. Opponent leads on a Plains. Then passes. We untap and draw an island. Play an island, play Krydle. Pass the turn. If my opponent leaves up 2 mana, they could have their Rouse the Party, or you hear something on watch. Okay, opponent plays a forest into a Dragon's Disciple. They do not reveal a dragon. Then they pass. We untap and draw Shortcut Seeker. So, Ray of Enfeeblement. Let's just make this easy. Go to combat. Attack for 1. We will not pay for his ability. Drain, Mill, Scry. Island to the bottom. Pass the turn. We can't play Grim Bounty unless we draw another swamp or make a treasure. But Shortcut Seeker and Krydle is definitely a combo. Opponent plays an island, then passes. So they don't have the Guardian of Faith because they don't have double white. They could have a Bar the Gate, though. So go to combat. Attack for 1. Not going to pay for his ability. Mill our opponent. I'm actually going to put Grim Bounty on top. I do want to draw those even though I can't cast them yet. Play Shortcut Seeker. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent plays a land. We untap. Draw Grim Bounty. Go to combat. Attack with Shortcut Seeker. Make it unblockable. Okay, it looks like our opponent does have a removal spell. Nope, they're just flashing in Guardian of Faith. So we get to Venture. Go to Phandelver. Imrith we're leaving on top. Card's insane. Play a land. Play Secret Door. Now we can start trying to empty our hand so we can start drawing a million cards off Imrith. Opponent untaps. Opponent plays a Sylvan Shepherd and passes. Well, they attack for 3. Now they could have a Bull Strength. I think it's still worth attempting the block with the Secret Door because we don't particularly care if it survives. If they have a Bull Strength and use it, then that's 1 less card in their hand. And they wasted basically like a kill spell on a 1-drop. Alright, if we connect with Shortcut Seeker, we can get a treasure and then Grim Bounty and get a treasure. So I'm okay with doing this. Go to the Mine Tunnels, get a treasure. Do we want to get their Life Gain engine or the Guardians of Faith? I think the Life Gainer is actually going to be more important for our opponent to try and stay in this game. So we'll kill that. Pass the turn. This still gives us the option of Grim Bounty next turn if we don't want to play Imrith. Opponent plays a land. They play a Teleportation Circle, so they can phase out all their own creatures all they want. Opponent passes. They flicker nothing. We untap and draw Demogorgon's Clutches, so go to combat. Attack. I'm actually not going to pay to make this unblockable, because I don't think my opponent will block. And if they have a pump spell, then we can Mind Rot them, and we're, all is fine. Just go to the Dark Pool and drain them. And play our Mythic. Pass the turn. It having Ward 4 probably matters a lot. Because, even if my opponent had a Plummet here, they would have to spend all of their mana. Opponent plays a Inspiring Bard, and they attack us for 5. I don't particularly care, so we'll take 5. Then they can flicker Inspiring Bard and gain life. They play a land. They flicker Inspiring Bard, gaining 3. We untap and draw a swamp. Play a swamp. Cast the best Mind Rot ever. If they have the kill spell, I'm gonna feel really bad for my opponent, because that's something they could have... Okay, that's something they could have actually killed Imrith with. Go to combat. Attack and attack. Pay to make this guy unblockable. Gotta stack our triggers correctly. Hit our opponent down to 3. Imrith triggers first, so we'll draw 2 cards from him. Then we can venture into the last room of Phandelver and draw a card. Pass the turn. They play a blue dragon, but unfortunately that will not save them because we have a second Grim Bounty. And it's on flavor too, because it's used to kill dragons. Opponent attacks us for 6. I'm actually going to block like this, because that guarantees we can have lethal next turn. Because we can flicker this, and then it will come back with a 1/1 counter, able to deal damage, and we can just make it unblockable. I guess my opponent could flicker Blue Dragon, except they didn't. Yeah, if they flickered that Blue Dragon, they could have shrunk all my guys, and we wouldn't have been able to attack or do anything that turn. I guess the gaining 3 life might feel better, but... So we untap, we draw Hired Hexblade, Grim Bounty, kill the Blue Dragon. Play Thieves' Tools, make a treasure, go to combat, attack and attack, say he's unblockable. So we'll scry, then we'll draw, plains to the bottom, draw swamp, opponent goes to 1. And if any of our creatures survive, our opponent loses. So they would have to have a board wipe. And then they would have to follow it up with like non-stop bombs. And they don't have it. So it's game over. Alright, I'm going to have to try and play fast because I'm up against my hard stop time for morning recording. We lost the die roll. They're on the play. I've seen worse hands. Honestly, I want to keep this, so I'm going to. Opponent plays a plains, plays a great axe, and passes. We untap, play an island, pass the turn. Well, at least we will be able to cast this Air Cult Elemental eventually. As long as we don't die first. Opponent kept a 1-lander. Okay, pass the turn. So we just need to draw anything. Anything at all. Okay, opponent drew a land. They play a Druid class, which I don't think there's a reason for me to unsummon. Especially if my opponent missed a land drop. Because they definitely went first. We draw Krydle, which is excellent. Play a swamp, play Krydle. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a land, gains a life. Then passes. We untap, draw an island, play an island, go to combat, attack, and I will pay because they have Guardian of Faith mana. Okay. Opponent flashes in Guardian of Faith like we knew they had. Hired Hexblade is castable, but I think we can do better. Maybe putting non-land cards when you're holding 4 lands on the bottom of your deck is greedy, but opponent untaps. They play a land. They gain a life. It's also possible they were just sandbagging lands to try and gain value off of Druid class. That's not unreasonable. They're going to level it up. Okay, bounce Guardian of Faith. We untap, draw a Vampire Spawn, go to combat, attack for 1. No reason to make it unblockable. Hit them, drain them, mill them for 1. We get to scry. Shortcut Seeker to the top. Opponent mills Teleportation Circle. Play Vampire Spawn. Pass the turn. Opponent replays Guardian of Faith. Then passes. I kind of wanted to hold on to Air Cult Elemental until they leveled up Druid class to level 3. But I think we're just going to keep generating tempo as much as we can. Go to combat. Attack. Hit them for 3, drain them for 1, mill them, and we scry. Leave a Shortcut Seeker on top. We mill a forest. They untap. They are continuing to play their flash creature at sorcery speed. Alright? We untap. Draw a Shortcut Seeker, play a swamp, go to combat, swing with the team. Krydle gonna make himself unblockable. Opponent can trade with the Vampire Spawn if they want. And they do. So we mill them, scry, drain them for 1, Vampire Spawn to the top because it's kind of like a burn spell. We mill Mind Flayer, which is really good because Mind Flayer has the capacity to screw us here. But it's also a double blue card and they haven't played a single island yet. So I guess maybe we shouldn't have been that worried about it. Opponent plays an island, gains a life, 4 mana. They might be leveling up Druid class. They keep trying to pay for something and are unable to pay for it, so I'm not sure what this is about. They animate a plains. Okay. We untap, draw a Vampire Spawn, play a swamp, go to combat, attack with everybody. Krydle targets himself, but we're not going to pay for it. Venture into the Tomb of Annihilation. Make our opponent lose a life. Make opponent lose a life again. Swamp to the bottom. Then play Vampire Spawn. And the game is over. Alright. Well, that's what happens when you play a 3-color deck, dude. And, I mean, it's also what happens when you keep replaying the same instant speed creature into sorcery speed removal. Alright, see you guys in round 3. Alrighty, welcome back to round 3, everybody. And this is a mulligan. Potentially this could be bad, but we do have Eye of Vecna as a redraw, so I'm going to keep this. Opponent leads on Swamp. We draw Hama Pashar, play a Swamp, pass the turn. I'd need to draw an island and a plains to play her on time, so that's probably not happening. We draw Thieves' Tools. We could play her next turn, provided, of course, we draw a island now. That could be good, so pass the turn. Opponent plays a Delver's Torch. They're going to hit us for 1 and make a treasure, or F6 through combat, alternatively. That is a valid play they can make. I I'm not going to save this treasure. I'm going to play Clattering Skeletons because I do want a blocker, especially because my opponent missed that attack. They play a land. They play a Lightfoot Rogue. Then they pass. We untap. We draw a Vampire Spawn. So play a Swamp. Play a Vampire Spawn. Leave up Feign Death. Pass the turn. If they attack with Lightfoot Rogue, I'm going to Feign Death on the Clattering Skeletons. Opponent plays a Swamp. They equip the Lightfoot Rogue. Go to combat. They attack, so they get to Venture. They go to the Lost Mine of Phandelver. Get a Scry, and they roll. So block with the Clattering Skeletons. Feign Death. We will also be going to Phandelver. Get a Scry. Demogorgon's Clutches. My opponent does only have a few cards left. I actually think I'm going to keep this. We're going to go Ultra Greed here and try to Eye of Vecna into a land and then cast. Even if we don't draw a land, I have a suspicion that my opponent is going to at least equip the Delver's Torch. They may not cast 2 spells. So even if we miss the Demogorgon's Clutches this turn, we should be fine. Leaving back both creatures just in case they do have a removal spell. Okay, they play a Death Priest of Miracle, then pass. So we are going to get full value on the Mind Rot. I am going to get greedy and draw a card here. Okay. So we're not going to be able to cast the Mind Rot. That's kind of bad. Go to combat. So our Mind Rot is going to be a lot worse. It's a good thing we drew something else we can play this turn. Okay, opponent does not block. I'm glad we are drawing the extra cards, though, because if we're not drawing blue lands, or really any lands, we're going to be in trouble. Opponent plays a life-linking Steadfast Paladin. Looks like they're equipping. They equip the Horde Robber. They go to combat, and they venture. Okay, they're going to make a Goblin token. I am going to double block. I think that's reasonable. Okay, opponent's going to pay 1, make a Skeleton. We untap. I think we still draw. Wow. Wow. Alright. Go to combat. Get in for 5. We really want our opponent to double block and kill this. They chump. Okay. Alright. Pass the turn. I think I'm making the correct decisions. It just feels bad because I am not getting the anticipated result. This opponent's probably going to equip the Paladin. They are going to attack, probably go to the storeroom and put a 1/1 counter on the Paladin. We're not blocking if that is the case. I can't just throw this creature away like that. Okay, so opponent's going to play their last card in hand, which is a Gloomstalker. We untap. I am not going to pay for the eye this turn. I need to draw land, though. Oh my god. Alright, play another Vampire Spawn. Drain our opponent. Pass the turn. We need to draw mana. We drew so many extra cards and we still haven't drawn mana. This isn't good. Okay, they move the equipment over to the Gloomstalker, so they are going to give it double strike. They get to draw a card. Block like this. Hopefully they do not have a combat trick. They have a combat trick. So the skeleton's gonna die and we get to venture. We're going to the mine tunnels because we need mana. We kill the lifelinker. Opponent moves the equipment over to the skeleton and makes another skeleton. We untap, not paying for eye. Draw swamp. Oh, brutal. Let's play the ogre because it's gonna be our best blocker, I think. Pass to our opponent. Opponent untaps. They're going to move the equipment back over, probably. They play a second Death Priest. That's concerning. Because now they get to make skeletons whenever something dies. They go to combat, they attack for 4, and they venture. And this does not say non-token creatures, just if any creature died. So they're going back to Phandelver. We are not blocking. Then our opponent plays a Mimic. We untap. We will not be drawing an extra card. We draw Hired Hexblade. Hexblade can get us a redraw. I really want to get down Kreidel, and I really want to get down Hama Pashar. Hexblade, though, could potentially draw us a land, and it just contributes more to the board. So, here's hoping. How many lands are we playing? It should be 16, right? We've drawn so many extra cards. How is this possible? Pass the turn. This is ridiculous. Opponent untaps, they draw. They equip the Double Striker. They go to combat. If a creature died, not even a creature you control, if a creature died, it's broken. They make a goblin. Chump, kill, and double block.
So we lose a lot, and in theory they stay about the same. Because then they can pay 2 mana to make 2 more. If I draw a blue land, I'm going to bounce one of these Death Priests and then Mind Rot them, because there's just no other way we can deal with that. This Delver's Torch is actually causing us a huge amount of problems. Gloomstalker is a creature that can just attack basically whenever they want. But the Death Priest's making those skeletons more powerful, like the Anthem effect and the repeatable creature generation, I think is the biggest threat. I can't draw here. I need to draw an island naturally. Finally, on turn 11, play an island. I think we bounce a Death Priest and then Mind Rot them. I think that's the only thing that, like, remotely gets us back into this game. And the fact that, like, we're not, oh my god, they have... We didn't even get full value. I mean, we weren't attacking, right? But, Barrowin of Clan Under and Dungeon Crawler, which... my opponent will be able to get back when they complete this dungeon again. Opponent untaps, they draw, they play a land. Thankfully, they just blanked that draw. They go to combat, attack, 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 and they venture. So they go to the storeroom, they put a counter there, so block the skeletons. We go to 3. Pretty sure my opponent could have just swung out and we'd be in trouble. They pay 1 to make a skeleton. Okay, we untap. We are not paying for Eye of Vecna. We draw another island. So play the island, play Krydle, then play our other zombie ogre. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. We could double block the Gloomstalker with zombie ogres, but then we lose a zombie ogre. And if my opponent has a combat trick, we're even worse off. And they're drawing a card here, too. Okay, so they pick up Dungeon Crawler. I don't really see another option. The potential for us to get blown out here is pretty big. Damn, must be good. And they make a zombie. This is tough. Yeah, sure, now we get the lands. Alright, next game. Well, let's hope we draw our Mythic and don't not draw the color of mana we need for 12 turns. I even added a bunch of extra islands to this deck. Remember the auto-suggestion? That's nuts. Like, there's no way that can be the average hand we play for this deck, and it feels like it is. Like, I know I'm playing 41 cards, but, like, I'm barely playing blue cards comparatively to the number of black cards that I've got. Okay, we're definitely keeping. We have a Ray of Enfeeblement. They're playing white creatures. We have a removal spell. We have a creature we can play, and another creature we can play if we draw any land or make any treasures. So I'm comfortable keeping this. Play a swamp, pass the turn. Opponent leads on a swamp. We untap and draw Grim Bounty. Play an island, pass the turn. They play a plains, they play Delver's Torch. We untap, draw Air Cult Elemental. Play an island, play a Vampire Spawn, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, plays a swamp, plays their own Vampire Spawn. We untap and draw a swamp. I think we're just gonna play... Okay, we've got a few different options here. I could Ray of Enfeeblement. I could attack, see if they'll block, and then Ray of Enfeeblement, but that doesn't leave me with anything else to do this turn. I can play Clattering Skeletons, but that lets them equip and attack. I could trade at that point, and then we both get a Dungeoneering trigger. And then I can save all of my removal. I can Charmed Sleep and leave up Ray of Enfeeblement. I think that's actually probably my best bet. Because if they play a white creature, we answer it for 1 mana, and we untap, we play another threat, and then we have a removal spell, and if we draw a land next turn, then we can play Air Cult Elemental the turn after that. They untap, they draw, they play a land, they play Barrowin of Clan Under, they venture, they're going to the Tomb of Annihilation. Interesting. So Barrowin is a white creature, which means Ray of Enfeeblement will kill it instantly. Okay. We untap, draw an island, play Clattering Skeletons, leaving up Feign Death that we don't actually have, but we're going to pump fake that we do against our opponent. Might make them play differently. Odds are it won't, but if you have the opportunity to fake that you have a card and can do so consistently all game, you probably should, especially if you're playing against a higher skill opponent. or an opponent you believe to be of higher skill. We untap. We draw an island. So go to combat. Attack for 6. Opponent probably has an exile spell. Okay, they're going to deal 5 damage there. We get to venture. Go to Fandelver. So we can get a scry. Swamp to the bottom. We don't need any more lands. Hit our opponent for 2. Then play an island, and we're going to unsummon their 2/1 because it enters tapped. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a land. 4 mana. They play a Death Priest of Miracle. We untap. Draw Swamp. I'm gonna Grim Bounty this. They have a Feign Death. Okay, that is not good. Pretty sure this only triggers on your opponent's end step. Beginning of your end step, yeah, okay. That kind of makes sense considering they didn't play Dungeon Crawler there. Go to combat. Attack for 4. Opponent takes 4 and goes to 9. They untap. They play Asmodeus, the Archfiend. We untap and draw Demogorgon's Clutches. Go to combat. Attack for 2 in the air. I am going to actually cast this Clutches, because it means for them to draw more cards than what they have on the battlefield, they have to lose life. So we're going to make this a race. Okay, pass the turn. Okay, Asmodeus gets a card. They equip Asmodeus with Delver's Torch. They attack. They venture down into the Tomb of Annihilation. We can discard this swamp. We don't need it. No blocks. We'll take 7. If we draw one of our other vampire spawns, our opponent dies immediately. That is not another vampire spawn. Go to combat. Attack for 2. I don't see how they get out of this. They go to 1. Pass the turn. They do have a creature to sack for Sandfall Cell, and we are going to block this turn. Opponent goes to combat. Man, Asmodeus seems really awkward. Like, you absolutely win more. I was gonna say, you absolutely win more with him if you're winning, but if you're not, then you're gonna have a bad time. Alright, run it back. Especially if you're out of cards. You almost need to, like, play him, activate him, and then sack him in response, so that you actually draw 7 cards. When that's not impossible if you have, like, a Sepulchre Ghoul or Sepulchre Ghoul. That's the word that I'm trying to pronounce. I'm going to keep this. We have all of our colors of mana, stuff to do. I'm probably not playing Hired Hexblade on turn 2 unless I'm going to need it to... I probably wouldn't block a Shambling Ghast. Draw a Swamp, play a Swamp, pass the turn. I think just drawing an extra card off of it's going to be where we want to be with it. Opponent plays a Swamp, goes to combat, hits us for 1. We go to 19, untap. We draw Ray of Enfeeblement, play an island, play a Thieves' Tools, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, plays a Plains. They play a Vampire Spawn. They hit us for 1, sure. Untap. We draw an island. Play a Swamp. Play the Hexblade. Draw a card and lose a life. Grim Bounty. Okay, so we're going to use this Ray of Enfeeblement defensively to kill Vampire Spawn. I mean, hopefully that works. Opponent goes to combat. Attacks. Block here. Cast the Ray. Alright, that lets their guy stay alive. So I guess I'm okay with that, because the alternative would be losing a creature. Whereas, like, here we only take 2 damage, that's not too bad. Untap. Draw a Swamp. Play an island. Play a Skellingtons. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a land. Exiles Clattering Skeletons, and attacks. So I think we're going to trade. Really hoping we draw our Mythic Dragon. They kill the 2/2. We untap. We draw Thieves' Tools. Play a Swamp. Grim Bounty. We're going to have to make them play something else. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a land. Plays a half-elf monk. We untap. We draw a Zombie Ogre. Play a Swamp. Play a Zombie Ogre. Pass the turn. So they can tap offensively to get in for 1. Okay, they play an Equipped Delver's Torch. They get to scry. This lets us block. Now we're on a 6-turn clock, and they're currently on an 8-turn clock, so this is not a race we are winning. Not without drawing something else. We untap. We draw Vampire Spawn. That helps. Suit up the Ogre. Go to combat. Attack for 3, say it can't be blocked. It's kind of funny thinking about a zombie ogre using thieves' tools to sneak by a frickin' half-elf monk. It's a pretty big D&D flavor fail, I think. Play thieves' tools. Make a treasure. Vampire Spawn. Drain some life. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Dwarfhold Champion and a Lightfoot Rogue. They're letting us block, but they're also putting out a ton of creatures. We untap. We draw Charmed Sleep. Can we race this? I would have to tap the Champion or the Rogue. I can get in without them being able to block, but I'm not sure what that buys me. I think I tap the Monk to remove their ability to tap. And then I can equip the Vampire Spawn and actually leave the Ogre back to block. I mean, they do have Death Touch on this Rogue. Maybe we just suit up and pass. Yeah, I think we're better on blocks here. Opponent can gain some advantage with this Torch, but opponent plays a Gloomstalker. They equip the Rogue, go to combat, and attack. As long as they don't crit, this is fine. So they venture. They put a 1/1 counter on Gloomstalker. If they'd had put it on the Rogue, we'd have way worse blocks. I am going to trade. Come on, Imarith. That is not Imarith. Pass the turn. It's going to be a 4/5 double strike that's going to kill us in 2 turns. So yeah, we have to stay on blocks. Zombie Ogre, I think, is probably way better in the... Okay, they had a land. They drew a land to equip. Wow, okay. Zombie Ogre is probably way better in the black-red deck, where you have like Sepulchre Ghouls and Price of Progress, or not Price of Progress, Price of Loyalty, and you're sacking your opponent's creatures, and you're using that to trigger adventure. I don't think it's actually good in these like slower Esper Venture decks that I keep playing. I guess we're taking 8 and going to 4. I'm not sure what we could draw to get us out of this, completely honest. Well, we drew Eye of Vecna, so play it. See what we draw. Secret Door. Play Secret Door. So we block here, and take 4 and die. Even if I gain a life, it doesn't matter. Disappointing. I feel like my deck was really good, especially with the Mythic. It's just like every game was like flood, screw, flood, screw, flood, screw. And that's really demoralizing, but I think sometimes that's just going to happen in Limited, and there's not a lot you can do about it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this content. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, though the last few times have been earlier than that. I want you to know that I think I already said that. You're all wonderful human beings, but I'll say it again. You're all wonderful human beings. And thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you guys next time. Bye! Hey, just wanted to give a shout out to my patrons for the month of July. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate your support. And if you want to have your guys' names show up in this list, there's a link to my Patreon in the description down below. Thank you all so much.